Computer. Hello, my name's Bob Whipple, and I'm also called the Trust Ambassador. I belong to an organization that's now called Elevate Rochester. We're trying to celebrate ethical cultures throughout the region. And we used to do it with an Effie Award. This year we had to skip the Effie Award because of the COVID-19 situation. So instead, we're substituting some inspirational programs with leaders around our community that are doing exceptionally good stuff in terms of helping us all get through this COVID-19. And I'm here with Fahim Mashoud. And Fahim is the President and CEO of Eastman Savings and Loan Federal Credit Union, one of the larger federal credit unions in the country. He's been CEO since 2016, joined ES&L in 1991. And I've just been keeping an eye on what's been going on even during this pandemic, and the kinds of reactions and responses coming out of ES&L are absolutely unbelievably good. So I wanted Fahim to share some of the things that you've been up to.
Well, thank you for having me. Glad to join you. Getting used to all these formats we're deploying now. But yes, it's certainly particular to the pandemic. It has been exceptional time for us, for our entire community. And I think we all have tried to meet the challenges and do our part to help our community navigate through something none of us have experienced previously, and contribute in the manners that we can.
Yeah, and you've gone above and beyond for sure, right? Early on, one of the things that caught my eye was that you donated $1 million for the community. There's a community something fund?
There's a community crisis fund that was started under the guidance of the Rochester Area Community Foundation United Way, and specifically to channel funds towards addressing some of the real impacts of COVID-19 on so many people throughout our community.
Right. It's an amazing thing. By the way, I didn't mention that the ES&L is celebrating its centennial this year, 100 years. And I looked it up and found out that I've been a member of ES&L for 52 of those 100 years.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It is amazing. We had a number of plans to celebrate this year, and we still will find ways to celebrate. But it is quite amazing to be 100 years old, and remarkable story and journey that the organization, along with this community, has been on.
Yeah, well, share some of the highlights of because I've always been very impressed whenever I've dealt with ESL people or have been in the facility. I've been in there a lot, and what is it that historically led to such an amazing culture, both in its infancy and currently? How would you describe that?
You know, it really goes back to what the reason for the creation of ESL, that then Eastman Savings and Loan was. And George Eastman in 1920 started us well before the financial system was highly developed, the housing finance system was developed. And he was bringing employees from all over the country to Rochester. And he wanted them to really build roots, to care about this community, to become community builders. And one of the ways he thought that he could accomplish that was to help people own homes. Mm-hmm. People would own homes, they would get interested in their neighborhoods, and by extension the community, become vested in the community much more so. So he started Eastman Savings and Loan to promote thrift and home ownership among his employees. And through until 1996, we essentially only served Eastman Kodak employees. And in fact, when I joined in 1991, was an Eastman Kodak employee assigned to the then Eastman Savings and Loan. So we had this culture of service, helping each other, being very mission driven. We were working for each other. So our business was about helping fellow employees. So this service orientation, this orientation about taking care of each other was very well grounded in our history. So in 1996, when we became a credit union, that's you know the history, the ESL, a lot of people don't know now. ESL used to stand for Eastman Savings and Loan.
Now
But
it's
we're
just
just
ESL, Federal
ESL
Credit
now.
Union. Yeah.
But our longtime members, such as yourself, still call us Eastman Savings and Loan. That's all right. That is perfectly all right. But as we moved to become ESL, it was important to preserve what was core to our being. And we spent some time really connecting with what is the essence of ESL. And one of the things that was very important to us was understanding the values that drive the organization. We didn't come up with these values. We didn't sit down as a management team one day and say, this is the values we aspire to. We actually talked to our employees, talked to members of the management team and said, what are the values that drive this organization? And we, through that process, identified 5 core values: caring about people, integrity, initiative, accountability, and teamwork. And those have become so central to what ESL is about. It perpetuates because when we hire people, we look for alignment with our values. When we reinforce performance, when we communicate what is important, we look to our values. When we celebrate, we look to our values. We reinforce them through recognition, storytelling of what people are doing to live them in exceptional ways. And very importantly, through this pandemic, we right up front said our values are going to guide us. That is what is going to determine what we do. And that, I think, has held true for us as individuals and as an organization. And that created a response which we can be very proud of. But the values did not all of a sudden come forward given the pandemic. Our behavior during the pandemic was a result of well-grounded values we've had for a long period. And it does influence the policies we set, the practices we have, and those are consistently guided by those values. And I can't say enough about how well they have served us through this pandemic.
Well, that's a great observation, because I teach leadership at lots of places, and one of the things I stress is the importance of having values. I love the fact that it bubbled up organically rather than just somebody in a conference room. It bubbled up and said, this is what we believe in. And what I preach to folks is that the values are most important and help you the most when it's difficult or expensive. That's when you go back to the values. And if you always follow the values, even when it's not convenient, people see that, and that builds trust.
Absolutely. That I can't say enough about how dominant caring about people has been through our responses in the pandemic. Right up front, we knew our employees would be concerned, both for their health and their financial stability. And we reassured them on both things right up front, that we are going to be there, that there is going to be no impact on them financially. We are going to continue to pay them. Even if they can't work the hours they're scheduled, they will be paid for scheduled hours. Likewise, then it came to our members. There are essential services that are needed. We have to find ways in which to provide those services while balancing our employees' health. So we pivoted and we came up with solutions, not perfect, but the best ones we could come up with given the circumstances, to be able to provide services that were valuable to our membership. And you mentioned the contribution we made to the community. We really believed right up front, as that was set up, that the $1 million was important to show confidence, that it was important that we help each other in this period. And we have great clarity on the fact that Greater Rochester is our community, and the prosperity, how our community prospers and thrives, is essential to our future. So a huge relationship that we have with Greater Rochester that compels us
Mm.
to take those actions. And most recently, we recognize that financially we were stable and we were going to perform this year. And which is why we have a long tradition of paying an owner's dividend every year
And
to
you
our
did it,
members.
you just did it last week, right? $20
We
million.
Exactly. We usually pay that in January, but we felt confident we'd be in a position to pay it again next year, January. But we felt the money is needed now.
Wow.
Why not give members the money now? And it was not just the membership. The power of $20 million spent in our community has a multiplier impact.
Of course.
So something we felt we will be doing in any event, we said, why not accelerate it?
Hmm.
So we just paid $20 million in January. And
Thank you very much.
Well,
I got a piece of that.
That's part of our mission. It's very much codified in our mission, how we support our purposes. One of the ways we support it is by sharing our financial success with our membership and with our community. And so last year we had about $16 million that we invested back in the community philanthropy, giving to a variety of institutions throughout the community. And then we gave 20 million back to our membership. And we just prepaid this year's dividend last Friday.
Yep. Everybody was glad to see that too.
I'm sure.
So what other things have you done that maybe I didn't hear about? I mean, there's a few very high profile things like we just discussed. What other things have you been working on to help?
Well, for the membership, we have spent a lot of time understanding who is being impacted. And some of the things you could see very clearly up front that people's access to ATMs perhaps was limited. So we weren't charging anyone for using someone else's ATM. We were waiving any insufficient fund fees because there was disruptions in cash flows. We were being very transparent and active in offering loan payment deferments and forbearances. We tried to we did design a product that would get cash quickly into the hands of our customers. Something that probably isn't apparent to a lot of people. Frequently, a lot of electronic transactions don't run smoothly. So when the $1,200 checks were coming in, the tens of millions of dollars that people were relying on from the government, our operations team did a phenomenal job of paying attention to any rejections and figuring out how to overcome any errors so that the percentage of errors was dramatically reduced because they knew how important that was to our membership at that time. We helped businesses out both with the loan deferments, but also by diverting resources to the payroll protection program, finding ways in which to support the businesses, even though there's uncertainty on what it means to us. We're confident that things will be fine. But we helped, I think it's close to $140 million of funds flowing to businesses. So some of those things in the background relative to the community, as I said, we're very active in supporting our not-for-profits. A lot of events, as you just mentioned, for the Ethy Awards, a lot of events are very important for fundraising, the galas, etc. So anyone we had paid for a gala, we said, you keep the funds. You don't need to refund us for that. There are some organizations where we funded programs, but they can't hold those programs. They can't deliver those services, but they still need the funds to operate, or they need to pivot to providing other services. We've said, fine, use it for that. Our staff, our community impact team, their resources were deployed to some organizations to help them as they were dealing with problems. Our not-for-profits just have done an amazing job with the resources they have available. These are remarkable people who are so mission-driven that they've done just a remarkable job in supporting our community. So in the background, we were trying to support them through that. So We've been doing those kind of things, and at the same time trying to operate our business
Yeah, you have to maintain
and
it.
provide services, and as best as we can. And by and large, we have provided those. Fortunately, the electronic solutions such as internet banking, mobile banking have been tremendous and have been the way in which people have been able to work with us. Our contact center has stayed fully functional. We have a variety of electronic means to communicate. So a number of things that were done
Yeah,
in response to that.
terrific. What do you see when you look in the crystal ball? What you see in the future? What would be your prediction for what we look like, say, 3 years from now?
So I'm not a prediction person. I do like to we like to plan. So based on the best available information, we try and plan, and then we look for certain scenarios. Unfortunately, the pandemic might be here for a while. The normal will not be quite that normal, although we are moving towards more normality, not quite normal. So we have to continue to adjust our operations to what is the community standard. We are not going to set the community standard for how interactions should happen. We have been very diligent to take direction from whether it be the CDC, our county health officials, our state health officials. They set the standard. And we will follow those standards. So we've been using that guidance. We certainly are preparing for this to be potentially more than months,
Yeah.
a few months long. So how do we best support our membership and our community through that time period? We're looking to see how best we do that. I do think some things will be different. It'll be interesting to see if they hold. We are people, our behaviors adjust continuously, and we are a service organization, so we have to adapt to the behaviors we're seeing. Our customers certainly did pivot significantly to electronic transactions. It'll be interesting to see if they continue to do that.
I think they will. I think that this kind of communication, the ability to communicate without having to be there physically, is a godsend to me, because I can talk to people like you or lots of other people, and I can teach around the world, and I don't have to leave my office.
Absolutely. I think this will play an important role in the future. I don't think it'll be a complete substitution.
No.
But the confidence in using video communications and being able to maintain a cultural connection, social connection, I think the confidence bolstered in that. Having said that, I have to say there's something that's missed. Particularly the larger the group gets,
Oh, yeah.
the more challenging these dynamics are. So, a combination of that will be possible. I think that helps in things like work-life balance. I think we have to pivot with what the customer, both from an employee standpoint and a market standpoint, is demanding.
Yeah, so there's conveniences and there's pluses and minuses. One of the things that's sacrificed, I do a lot with body language because I'm just a student. I just love to study that stuff. And direct eye contact is not possible in this medium. And that's a sacrifice that we don't get when we're not sitting across the table from each other. We can simulate it, but we can't really have direct eye contact.
Right. Well, particularly in new relationships. I think if you have long-standing relationships, you can
that's easy.
Borrow a bit of the confidence that's from right. That.
Well, when we first meet someone, in the first 3 to 10 seconds, we form that judgment about how much we're going to trust that person, and that's an initial feel for how much we trust that person.
Yeah.
And the two most important things going on in that first few seconds are the handshake and the eye contact, and both of those aren't available in this medium. So
yeah,
It's going to be,
Although having said that, that might be a good opportunity to challenge our biases that may have developed over time.
yep.
So, who knows? There may be positives to that too.
Well, that's why knowing you and knowing ESNL, that you will find ways to make lemonade out of the lemons that we're dealing with, and you are doing that, and finding opportunity among the difficulties, and your employees are so engaged that they will be bringing ideas to you, right?
Right, absolutely. I think we have always believed in the fact that we try and do the right thing when we design solutions. We also know we don't get it right all the time. So one thing we have heavily relied on is very strong formal feedback mechanisms, whether it be from our customers, our other stakeholders in the community, or it be from our employees. Because it's one thing to design with confidence, it's another to really listen and respond to what you're hearing about what's not working. And I think that is something that we have really ingrained in our organization when it comes to employees. Our employees are very open and honest with us.
They're not afraid to speak. They're not afraid to challenge if that's what they feel. And that's a part of why you're a great leader, Fahim.
Well, and I'm very much a product of this environment. I've been there this is my 29th year there. So
you're certainly modeling the behavior that creates that. From my business, I'm in the trust business, and I say that if a leader can allow people to challenge or to make a counterpoint without feeling they've been punished, that's going to improve trust.
I think feedback is valued when people see that it's received and something is done with it. We very much reinforce when we receive feedback, we acknowledge it and we demonstrate how we're taking action on it. Now, there are thousands of feedbacks, comments. You have to prioritize, but we always communicate what we're doing. So that's a reinforcing loop. You heard me, you did something, therefore I will tell you. If there was just a one way, if there was just a one way, I give feedback, nothing happens, well, I won't waste my time. So I think that's very important. Right now, for example, we participate in a national survey on great places to work, and we're getting feedback from employees right now.
And you typically, for those who are listening on the recording here, ESL typically scores very high on the great places to work year after year after year.
Yes, we've been on that list for I think 10 of the last 11 years, and I think the list it's a moment of pride, but the real value is the benchmarking and the comments. What we get is an opportunity to see ourselves in the context with best performing companies. And that helps us adjust our practices. It allows us to get feedback from our employees on what is good, which is very important to hear, what is important and what we're doing well, but also what could be better. So we do quite well, but we set extremely high standards. We have standards of above 90% positive performance in every area there. Because it is important. Employees are constantly changing. They are human beings, and you can't stand pat on what you've been doing. You've got to continuously evolve. But they are the best sources of input on how to evolve.
Well, you're an inspiration, Fahim, and I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me today and share a little bit about what ESL Federal Credit Union has been doing over the years, and especially in these last few months when it's been really, really tough. So thank you again for taking the time to do this interview.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for the work you're doing.
Okay.
Right.